say. I don't.
I never do. All right, guys, we're here on our, I guess we've renamed our live stream. It's called Paul and Greg now. I think it's because the team was always like, Paul, you and your dad are always coming with new names for all these video series. Why don't we just call it Paul and Greg, and then you guys can talk about whatever you want to talk about. So here we are, episode 1 of Paul and Greg. We have Laurie Zokoe here. Hi, Laurie.
Hi.
Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
We're gonna just sit here and talk with Laurie about, her experience in real estate. We were just talking. She's been 20 years in, I think, and she's seen a lot of different types of markets that we've gone through, and she's seemed to grow her business year after year after year through whatever market was being thrown at her. Mm-hmm. So let's dive into that. Greg, I'm gonna pass you the reins here, and you get to ask the first question.
Oh man, wow! This is a great experience, and I hope that a lot of agents are listening or will see this, because I think Laurie is really a normal, ordinary person who has managed to do some pretty extraordinary things. And what I want to do is I want to try to show you that today. And what I'm hopeful that we can show is that Laurie wasn't born with a silver spoon. This just didn't happen. And that
it wasn't just lucky.
It wasn't lucky. It was really the way she treated people, I'm going to guess, is probably the biggest thing that she'll end up telling you. But but I first want just to kind of go over your history a little bit, Laurie. And so why don't you start back in 2003? We'll kind of make this the brief part of it, but yet I really want them to know some of your numbers and what you were doing.
Okay, so in 2003, I quit my job. I worked full-time as an office manager for my brother and his business. Had a pretty cushy job. I worked when my kids were in school, etc. And I told him and his partner, I said, I'm going to quit and do real estate. And they laughed at me. They're like, oh, that's a great idea. You're going to leave this to do that. Good luck.
Yeah.
And I quit cold turkey. I was able to do that. Got my license. I started with Century 21, and that was in January. And about April or May, I remember my dad and my husband saying to me, well, you look cute, you got a new computer, but you're not doing nothing. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know what to do yet. And of course, there wasn't the training that we have now. It's quite different. Mm-hmm. But I was with Century 21. My first broker told me, come every day, 9 to 3. I want you here. I want you dressed for work and your car clean. Because back then we took everybody in our cars. Mm-hmm. So, okay, those are easy things for me to do. So I did those things. Also during that time, I went to a 6-week training. That's basically all the training I got was 6 weeks. Once a week, you went to this. Chris Smith was our trainer. At the end of that, she gave me a book. I'm the only one that got the book at the end of the class, and I felt terrible because I must be the one that needs the most help.
The book was for people, for special kids.
Yeah, and it was Barbara Cochran's, somebody's borrowed it right now, like Everything You Learned in Kindergarten book, something like that book. And it's about real estate. Actually, I've read it several times now. So my first listing was in June. It was my grandma's. And I didn't have a clue what I was doing. In fact, I turned out to be dual agent on my first deal.
Oh boy. Yep.
So
on your grandma's deal?
On my grandma's deal.
So you were not fully representing grandma?
Oh no, or the buyer. I didn't know what I was doing. I was my dad still teases me how nervous I was at that closing. Yeah. That was June. I mean, I'm halfway through the year, and that's what I did was that. And then from that point on, till the end of the year, I did 11 transactions, closed 1.7 million, average sales price back then of 25,000. It says here. No, that must be income. Sorry. I made 25,000.
And then Laurie, were you number one in the office then by the end of the year with doing those 11 transactions?
No, but within year 2 and 3, I did bump up to, typically I was the top. I never made number 1, but I never could there because of some other details. I was always in the top 5 typically.
Okay. But that was doing, as you said earlier to me, you did, what'd you say? It was year 1, you did 1.7?
1.7.
Year 2 was 3.5.
Yep, 24. Year 5 must have been bad. I went down to 13, 2.2.
Yeah, 2.2, you dropped from 3.5 to 2.2.
Yep.
Back up to 2.8. And then your 5th year, you made a move.
Right. And to 5-star.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rodney Thiss got me to come over here. He took me to
Wow.
coffee.
Wow.
Isn't that something? Thanks,
Yeah.
Rod. And so that year you did how many transactions and how many mil?
53.
53.
53. Yep.
And
Yep.
5.9 million, basically 6 million.
Yep. I
And
had a buyer's agent at that point, a buyer's agent
well,
slash assistant.
okay, so what happened? I mean, you've been in it now you're in your 5th year. You see your business jump finally, and you hire a buyer's assistant. What was your thinking? Do you recall what you were thinking when you brought in that first buyer's assistant?
Yeah, that was a natural, that one, it wasn't a real lot of thought. It was another agent and we sat together and I remember saying to her, hey, I have all these leads and they were just on little slips of paper. And I'm like, you want to help me with these? So we started working together and she worked as buyer's agent and admin, which in hindsight was a difficult, I've struggled with that through the process. I don't know, other agents, maybe they're more successful with that than I am, but if they do both, it's a really hard thing for them to do because they're trying to split their time between buyers and working for you.
Now, when did your kids, like we're up to say 2008, when did your kids graduate from high school?
Oh, so Scott, my youngest, so Scotty was about 7 when I started. So he was only like 12 or 13 when I started getting busier.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
okay. I just wanted to make sure that they knew you had a couple of kids at home there.
I had 3 kids home.
3 kids home.
At that point, at 2008, I had approximately a 13, a 16, and a 19-year-old.
And you did 60 sales, 53 sales.
Yeah.
And you had one assistant who was just getting started.
Right. Well, no, she'd been in the business about the same as I had, I believe. I think she came in shortly after I did. She came with me there are a bunch of us came from C21.
Yeah. And she's still with us today.
She is still with you today and doing great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, so when you do end up with a relationship like that, it doesn't have to be like, burn the village down.
No.
The team member does not have to leave 5-star. They could still stay.
No.
And so, that's something that we always want to make sure that agents understand, that just because they want to go on their own doesn't mean they have to leave 5-star to do that. So
no, and I think if you have a team, you better plan on them leaving at some point.
well, as we always said, let's start with the exit strategy, Laurie.
Yes. And that's something I learned later after a few hires. Now you have an exit plan. Vito Dulce actually really got me going on that. He has a great exit plan.
Yeah. And the reason for that is that it's most likely these things will not last forever. And it's like, why do we have to go through the fight at the end and argue over all this stuff? If we just would have taken a few minutes up front, we could have avoided a ton of heartache.
We've learned from that too. We actually now, when teams form, we actually ask them to fill out a team agreement, which sort of loosely details what happens, because we were having to act like, as Greg puts it, Solomon trying to split the baby, because there's usually a disagreement on what happens with a lead.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, and I think that's something that all of probably really, years ago, teams were a new thing. And when we first started this, none of us knew what to do.
So Laura, I want to flash back real quick to the beginning. So you're working at this office situation with a family deal, and you wake up and you tell them that you want to go into real estate. I mean, how did that happen? What took place that you decided, out of all the things you could have done, why real estate?
Well, if you backtrack to when Scotty was about 2, so 5 years prior, Sharon Gorder was in the business, a family friend. And I talked to her. I said, I sold my first house back when I was 28 for sale by owner. So I kind of had it in my blood, I guess, all along. But anyway, I talked to Sharon when Scott was 2. So now I have 3 little kids, and her advice at that time was wait till they're older. Yeah. So I did, and I waited 5 years. And actually there was a sermon at church, and I walked out of, and I never gave up on the idea. I just always had it in the back of my head. A couple other things were happening. My husband was a steel case guy. Cuts at that time, they were cutting people all around us. And my thought was, if I have to make more money than I'm making currently, what can I do? Because I knew I was making a good hourly wage, but I was capped. My brother could only pay me so much.
All right.
So,
So now I want to, and again, I want to apologize for interrupting
oh no, you're
because
fine.
I've got so many things I want
Yep.
you to try to let these people know. So when you look back at that first 5 years, what is it when you look back that you wish you would have known in the beginning that you didn't know? Or was it just exactly, was it the best it could have been? What I find is that most people, when they look back, they can go, I wish I would have known A, B, C, D in those first years. And so here we've got, somebody like you that started from scratch, your kids at home, your business is kind of going along. You're doing okay. You're doing 2, 8, 3, 5, 2, 2, 4, 2, whatever. But that wasn't like exceptional, right? That was just
Right.
getting
Yeah,
by,
it was good. Yeah.
and it was good. And so I'm just curious, was there anything that you look back there you would say we've got a lot of agents right now that are either in their first month or they're in their first year, their first 3 years.
Mhm.
And so they've got somebody like you sitting there, you've been through the battle and you've somehow managed to survive. And now you've gotten to the point where I would say you're thriving.
Mhm.
And is there anything they can do in those first years that they need to focus on?
Well, the one thing that now with the training that a 5-star offers and, there's out there for you is I didn't have any systems. I didn't have a contact management system until in the last 7-8 years, probably, that it really got good, that we actually did it. So get your systems in place before, because you are going to get busy. It's going to happen. And show up. I showed up in those early days. I went to work every day and I sat in a desk the size of a voting booth. Literally, there were 6 of us, 3 and 3 on each side. It was a voting booth. We sat there every single day. But and there was no Facebook. I couldn't play on my computer. But what I did do is talk and listen to the other more experienced agents. And my team has said that. Molly Smith has said, I learned everything just from being in the office listening to you. Scott just told me, who came back to real estate now, is back on my team. He said, I learned just by sitting and listening to you talk. And granted, you shouldn't be sitting in the office all the time. You need to be out prospecting, but there's a balance there. I think you learn from listening to other people.
Yeah. So,
Well, on that same note here, real quick.
Go ahead, Paul, jump in.
Okay. I think that one of the questions, Laurie, you're pretty well known. You're very well known, especially on the northwest side of Grand Rapids. I mean, I think I've told you this, that my my infant, well, not my 2-year-old daughter, she'll see signs and she'll point you out as we're driving around because you have your photo on there, and so my kids know your face better than anyone's face probably. But I think a lot of the questions that people have is, and I know that we've asked you this question. I know it's a very hard one to answer, but what happened in that when you went from like 20 transactions to 60 transactions to 100 transactions to 150 transactions? It feels like you're on a speeding locomotive when you're growing like that. But do you think, is there one thing that you think is associated with that level of success and that trajectory? I know there was no silver bullet, there's no magic fairy dust, but if you sat back and you were like, if I reflect on what I've done over the years, what is it, the one thing that you think lends to your success? Is there any advice you might give?
I think honestly, the first 5 years, it was the attention I gave every single client, whether it was, a $40,000 sale, or I never had a 400 in the beginning, but I treated those leads, those Zillow leads, or those leads that you kind of have to chase after, you have to nurture and have to spend time with them. I spent time with them. And when I always try to answer my phone. I've gotten so many leads. The basketball coach at Grand Valley years ago, it was a Tuesday afternoon. We have a house full of people by the pool. And I answered, and she said, I didn't expect you to answer, and I'm like, well, just a minute, let me get away from the pool. I always try to answer my phone and treat those people and give them the attention, because you don't know, it might be a rotten lead that you're dealing with right now, but you don't know who their aunt is or, you know, who their mom and dad are. I just got a call this morning, clients that moved away years ago. Now her mom wants to sell her house, you know, and I haven't talked to them in years. So it's how you treat them, and it'll just start to snowball, you know, then my business is all referral.
So Laurie, Paul, I want to jump in here. So
Yeah.
Laurie, I'm thinking about this, and I want to see if you can remember this. When you were in your first 5 years, you weren't making that much money.
Mhm.
But I'm going to guess you made some mistakes.
Mm.
And when you made a mistake, did you run for cover? Did you blame others? Or did you get out your checkbook?
You write a check, and, you know, if you make a mistake, the best thing to do is just call and just face it. You know, I had a, you know, one time, one of my and I've had assistants make mistakes on a you know, they all do. We're all human. And when your assistant makes a mistake, you need to call up and say, hey, we messed up. I'm sorry this happened. And either sometimes you send flowers, sometimes you write a check, but sometimes you buy a water softener, you know, whatever needs to be done.
Out of curiosity, Laurie, you know, on that note, what's just for fun, what's the largest check you've written to cover up, or to I guess not to cover up, but to solve a mistake?
So last year I sold a really nice house out in Ada, and there was a pergola there, and it was sitting on the cement by the pool. My mistake. I take blame, but my buyers move in. I mean, we're talking a $700,000 house. They move in and there's no pergola.
Oh boy.
And it's a reload because everything's been packed and gone. So that's on a truck to Texas. My clients call me and they're like, hey, where's our pergola? And they're upset.
The pergola is missing.
The pergola is missing.
Oh my God.
Guess I got to plug my computer in quick. Guess who found out where they bought the pergola? It was a Costco one, and it was $2,500. Guess who had a $2,500 pergola delivered?
I'm guessing
Me.
You. Yep.
Years ago, water softener. So on the purchase agreement, I didn't read, you know, we don't always read things as great as we should. And years ago, probably 10 years ago, I had a young mom move into a house and the hot water heater is not working with her 3 little girls, single mom. And she calls me, I send my husband over. He can't fix it. I call the listing agent. Oh yeah, that broke last week. Because the purchase agreement says you're now, you know, the buyer was the landlord.
Yeah, it's the buyer's house now.
Yeah, I write something in my purchase agreements now. I'll never buy another hot water heater.
So Laurie, I'm going to guess that you've got little personal philosophies that you live by too. Like, you know, if it wasn't clear, whose fault is it?
Mine.
Yeah. If it wasn't written properly on the buy sell.
Mine.
Yours.
Yeah. I always take I always take the blame.
So I think that, young agents, new agents, the last thing they want to do is take the blame. And I believe this is where one of the big mistakes happens early in a career, and why agents will not get referrals from those past clients.
Read, you know, we don't always read.
Sorry.
What was that, Paul?
I clicked a button over here on my computer and it started playing the same audio clip.
All right.
So, sorry.
So I think about this and I go, I want all the agents at 5-Star to know that the way to build a business is you're going to try things, you're going to miss things, you're going to make mistakes. And the first thing you have to do is be strong enough internally to call up those people and say, I blew it. I screwed up. I'm going to make it right. And I'm going to guarantee, without even knowing, and I haven't been there to watch you every step of the way, but I just know for you to have the following that you've got, the loyalty that you've got, which I think is one of the huge strengths of your business, by the way,
Thank you.
is the fact that you have probably stepped up multiple times, taken the hit, didn't run for cover. And the natural inclination of people is to either you blame the other agent, you blame the other buyer or seller, and you never take responsibility. If you want to build a referral business that's going to look like Laurie someday, you better learn how to take the hit. And you better, and don't, there's a word out there when agents or any salesperson doesn't really quite want to tell the truth. And so there's this word is called obfuscate.
Mhm.
And I think that agents tend to obfuscate. Another word that I use is dissemble, which means that we kind of take pieces and bits of the truth and we mix them up. And whenever you do that, I've always told my sons, I said, if you make a mistake, I want you to run and make the apology before they call.
Yes.
I think the
Yep.
way you described it was to take the wind out of the sails. There's
Yeah.
nothing like you know, the you know, conversation of being wind behind someone's sails.
Mhm.
There's nothing like a wind if you start to kind of shift around, you're trying to dodge taking blame for it.
Yep.
Buyers and sellers can smell that from a mile away.
Yep.
And you just fess up to it right off the bat, acknowledge it. You have to be vulnerable. We're all going to screw up.
Yep. Yep.
You know?
We are. And another good piece of advice my first broker gave me, and I remember sitting across the desk from her, and she said, "Don't get connected to the paycheck." And I thought to myself at that moment, my
Mhm.
husband had lost his job. We have 3 little kids, and my business, I have to sell houses, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, you don't know how bad I need one, but you can't let you. I don't even look at what I'm getting. I never have tried to think about what I'm getting paid,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard because there's times where we need our paychecks, you know,
Right. Right.
and you need that paycheck, and it's like, but you can't let them smell that.
Yep.
So what kind of things are you doing today, Laurie, to build your business, to keep clients happy and
Mhm.
seeing you as number one? Because obviously there's a number of people they probably know who are realtors.
Right.
And so what are you doing today to build your business? I was just looking at your numbers. It looked like you sold 228 homes last year
Yep.
and just about 56 million.
Yep. Yeah.
And those numbers
They're
they're big. And
Mhm.
it's in some of the people listening might think that they can never do that. I'm going to guess you probably never thought you could do this.
Never thought. I was not an A student in school. I did not do well in school. I planned on getting married and being a trophy wife. Let's face it, that was my plan. I'm just honest. You know, I never dreamed I'd be doing. My brother teases me. The girl who never worked Friday. I didn't work Fridays. He said the girl who never worked Fridays now works 24/7. But
Mhm.
I've gotten to the point now, and I tell my clients this: I'm real. I'm a real person. I have a family. I have a husband. Real estate is in my life are one and the same. I'm able to go to Florida now, and I posted one picture at the end of my times in Florida, and one of the clients posted, "Glad to see you finally got away."
Mhm.
And I was gone several times, but I had to put my time in. You know, I put my time in, but
So when when these agents are, say you're talking to somebody who's been in the business for 3-4 years, they're doing that 2 to 3 to 4 million thing.
Mhm.
What is it? What do they have to do to make the jump?
they have to build the relationships, whether it means going to the same, you know, and I know COVID's changed our world that we don't go out as much, but you need to go to the same places. You know, for years I got a Diet Coke at the corner store down here, the corner gas station.
Mhm.
I've probably sold a half a dozen houses because of getting a Diet Coke there.
I see you at a certain restaurant frequently.
Yes.
Over
Yeah.
there.
Walker Roadhouse. Yeah.
Walker Roadhouse.
And I know a lot of the people who are new in the business are thinking, well, yeah, she's got the money now to, you know, do these different activities, or buy the pies and give them away. But you don't have to do anything that big. You know, my team just walked out the door, Scott and Felicia, my entire team, I had them pick a neighborhood. They're going to walk the neighborhood right now.
Mhm.
You know, you can go walk a neighborhood. You know, my financial guy, Craig Teach from Edward Jones, he 7-8 years ago was a nobody, and he every day knocked on doors, and now he's going through the rough. But
Yeah.
That's one thing, Laurie, that I think that almost no one has done that better than you, Laurie, is become known.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, we go to get ice cream over here at the ice cream garage down the street, and my kids point out the Laurie Zokoe logo here on the wall.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you really have done a fantastic job doing some of those things that get you out there and get you exposed to people. Yep.
People think they see me everywhere, And in a way they do, but you go to the ice cream garage, you go to New Beginnings, I'm on the placemat.
Mhm.
New Beginnings at the plate. I don't know if they're doing it right now. I just thought of that today. That cost me $150 for like 6 months of
Mhm.
every person that came in there saw my business card on the placemat.
Yep.
Holy Spirit School, Holy Spirit Church. I'm not even Catholic, and I sponsor their bulletins.
So you go from services at church, then you go grab an ice cream, and later in the week you're having breakfast at New Beginnings, and I've seen Laurie.
Lori. And none of that cost me a lot of money. That's all inexpensive things to do. You can do things that don't cost a lot of money. In the beginning, you don't have the funds to do it.
Yep.
But
But as you said, some of those things are relatively cost effective. I mean, the placemat thing is as simple as that idea is. If someone knows you or has seen you before, and they all of a sudden they're having breakfast, taking a sip of coffee, there you are.
Yeah.
And it's a really affordable reminder that you're in the business.
Yep.
So I want to go in a different direction here for a minute.
All right.
As we're coming close to the end. Teams.
Yes.
When should somebody consider a team? When should you, and if you're going to get your first team member, what should they be doing?
We talked about this as a team yesterday, a few of us, because you gave me a list of questions you may ask me. And they all agreed that if you're new, join a team in the beginning. I mean, that's where you're going to get some mentorship. You're going to get maybe hopefully some leads given to you, some training, and maybe you can just sit and listen to the other team members,
But before they join a team, I want to make sure that while the team leader is interviewing them, they need to be interviewing the team leader to find out exactly what it is that this person expects of them.
Yes.
And, because some of them are going to say, well, shoot, if I'd have been doing that on my own, maybe I would have made a few bucks.
Right. They should be interviewed. And you want to make sure it's a personality fit. You want to make sure that, you just don't go join a team.
Yeah. So do you hire an admin or do you hire a buyer's agent first?
I would say for myself, it would be an admin because my strength is to be with the clients, I would say an admin. Now that's not really what I did in the beginning because I had all these extra leads. So my assistant came on as more of a buyer's agent and then did admin work also. Yeah. But that was kind of out of necessity.
But it seems like I do agree with you that admin, they say admin should come first, but it seems like more often than not, what you did is what actually happens, where it's like, right. I'm busy. I can't really think about training them right now, but I need a buyer's agent because I'm drowning or something like that. So it does seem to be that's the more common way to go. But I do agree. If I were in your shoes, the first thing I would do is hire an admin as well.
So,
and
Laurie,
if you can't, I was say if you can't order. Go ahead, Greg.
Okay, I was just going to say that when I hired my first team member back in '92, it was not that I was going to make more money. It was that I was trying to get my life back.
Right.
Because I was working from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. Weekends, I'd get to Monday morning and I'd think the rest of the world just had the weekend off and I'm exhausted. And so for me, it was to get organized and gain my life back, not to make money. But I think that a lot of agents think, oh, I'm going to get that buyer's agent because they're going to help me make more money.
Right. And they will, but then you're still going to have all the paperwork that's piling up. So the other, you could look at a transaction coordinator, something off-site.
Yep. That's something that we didn't have years ago.
We didn't have that. I use one, even with a full-time assistant, we use a transaction coordinator.
I sold 2 homes last year, kind of by mistake. And I actually hired one of those transaction coordinators because I did not want to touch it.
Yeah.
And that worked out great. I mean, they made me look good. Because it's been so long since I've done the listing and sales aspect that it was a lot of things have changed. And so it was hard for me.
Yeah.
So what else, Paul? We're coming to the end here. Laurie, was there any question that you had that I gave you that you want to answer? Do you want people to know?
I think the primary thing, they just need to focus on building relationships, it's where that's where your money's going to be, down the road, is the people who know you and love you already.
Yeah.
Are the people that are going to use you.
I think that I just time and time again, every time I talk to realtors, they're like, they always want to go, how did Laurie do it? How did Laurie do it? And I know it's just such a tough, it's such just a tough thing to answer,
yeah,
but it sounds like it was just hard work. It
it
sounds
was.
like it was, it
It
sounds like
still is.
I think the most important thing for agents to know is that it didn't always look like this. It started
No.
out with 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, right?
Right.
A couple years in, because you focused on those relationships, because you focused on those people, that $2 and $3 and $4 million of volume that you were doing in those 50 transactions you did, those things have come back tenfold now because they were like, they've become advocates and ambassadors of you.
Right.
And that's the old theory. They say, Laurie, if you take care of your business and you take care of your clients for 5 years, what do they say?
Right.
They say it'll take care of you for the rest of your life.
Your life. Yeah. And it has. You know, I used to do open houses every Sunday. You know, when I was new, that's what I did. I didn't understand why people really didn't enjoy doing them. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought they were great. A couple of years ago, I showed a house to somebody and she had my old Century 21 business card. She said, we saved this all those years because we knew when we were ready to do something, we'd call you.
Wow.
That was a listing and a sale.
Yeah.
Just because I treated them nice at an open house.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah. So
That's-
Laurie, today,
Mhm.
Paul, I think we're near the end.
we are. Yep.
Here's how I'd like to end this, Laurie.
Mhm.
So when we talked with Brian Boven, a month or so ago, we had him share briefly what he offers to a seller when he walks in the door today. And I know I didn't give this to you as a question.
Yeah.
I know you know what you do. So
Yeah. Yeah.
tell them the kind of things that you're doing to set yourself apart.
So I do walk in with marketing material. We have hardcover books that have our marketing plan in it, a little bio about myself, about my team. We offer staging, you know, of course, I didn't offer staging 15 years ago, but and I used to hire stagers and I'm like, well, we really don't need to this. And then I had a builder and we bought some furniture together and lo and behold, I'm like, well, this makes more sense. So I've accumulated, if I get rid of something at my house, it goes to my staging file. We offer staging. We offer I guess I have the team. So that does help, you know, to tell them about my assistants and such.
How about a handyman or a painter?
Oh, yes,
or
I have handyman, painters, carpet people. Yes, and I offer to facilitate all that.
Are you paying for it then? I'm going to guess sometimes you're paying for it, maybe not always.
I typically don't actually pay for it. I have fronted the money because I'm able to now at this point in my business. I just did that recently for a client and, you know, I got paid back at closing. Now you got to be really careful with that stuff because, you know, I don't want to get burned on that either.
Mhm.
But I would offer to pay. There's been times I've offered to pay, you know, have something fixed or painted if it's need be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes,
So
I offer all that.
Have you
Moving.
ever guaranteed a sale?
Nope.
All right.
No, I have not done that yet.
Yeah. All
No.
right.
No,
All right. Well, Laurie, thank you so much.
thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time. I know your schedule's full,
Mhm.
and I know the agents love to hear from those that have done it, and no bull, just
Mhm.
real.
Yeah.
And thank you for being real, and much appreciated, and blessings
Thank
to you the balance of this year.
Yep.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Laurie.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Thus concludes, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks again, Laurie.
Bye. Bye.
Yep. Yeah.